Good evening. I'd like to call to order the March 12th Groton Town Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Councilors present are Perry, Schmidt, Atwater, Granatowski, Heed, Franco, and Parker. Councilor Aubry cannot be with us this evening, and Councilor Baumgartner is running late from his work commitment. He should be here shortly. Calendar and communications. Councilor Parker.
Just receiving additional emails regarding the garden and other concerns, and that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Franco.
Received some emails as well regarding the garden and attended a RTM Board of Ed Town Council, City Council liaison meeting, Economic Development Committee meeting, and went to the Baker's Battle at the Senior Center this past weekend, and it was delicious.
Councilor Heed.
I also received several letters regarding the garden, some in favor, some opposed. One was a conversation between people. A very nice letter from Alexis Student, actually. And then carrying on, received a letter from Elizabeth Bollerstadt regarding legislation to limit oversized trucks from using local roads. I think you have that. And a correspondence with Rosa Zarba regarding issues with a neighboring property owner that John Burt is working on, and then several other oral communications. But last Wednesday I attended the Zoning Commission. Friday I attended the Fitch Senior Beauty Contest, and just want to say it's the best $10 I ever spent. Congrats.
Mr. Falcon, not a beauty
It's Mr.
contest.
Falcon, yeah.
It was a beauty contest. Dan Gajewski won Mr. Falcon, so just wanted to congratulate him and all the other participants on a great show. It was a lot of fun. And then Saturday, I attended the bake-off at the Senior Center with Councilor Franco, right, and Joe Dela Cruz. So that was a lot of fun too.
Councilor Atwater.
I also attended the liaison meeting with Councilor Franco. I attended a Board of Education facilities meeting last night, and I want to report that I saw my first robin of the season this morning.
Excellent. Councilor Schmidt.
I attended the panel discussion on women in politics Sunday at the United Methodist Church in Stonington.
I have no report tonight, but I'm curious to know if the first robin of the season occurred on Thomas Road.
No. At least I didn't see it on Thomas Road.
I saw one 2 weeks ago.
So the Board of Ed RTM Town Council joint meeting, I attended that also. It was a good meeting. Lots of information to be shared. Today I had a meeting with Councilor Schmidt, the manager, and representatives from the Groton Conservation Associates and members of the No Inc. School Property Group, and we had some discussion about, they were just clarifying their opinion on some things. We received a communication that I shared with all of you regarding a bill for a statute that would increase the weight of semis on the roads in Connecticut to 100,000 pounds. And I've asked for some clarification on that. There's really nothing in the bill. The woman who sent it to us is going to be forwarding some more information, so I'll share that with you as soon as I get it. But it's backed by the Teamsters Union, it's backed by sheriffs, by the chiefs of police, so it's something I think we should at least look at. The other thing is I have coming in, I don't remember if I said this to you guys earlier or not, next COW, which is on the 26th, Wendy Berry from Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition will be here to talk about Make Music Day, and I'm hoping we can get behind that in June. And we have, just as a reminder, Monday night is the joint City and Town Council meeting at the city this time, correct?
At 6:30.
6:30 at City Municipal Building. Mr.
What
Burke.
night is that?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, what night was that?
It's Monday evening. They're hosting this quarter.
This coming Monday?
So it's Monday night at 6:30 at the City Municipal Building.
Nothing really tonight other than to point out that Gary Schneider brought, we have 4 scenic road signs around. They've shaped like the state of Connecticut in 4 shape. We're asked to do something with it. So this is the look of the replacement signs, 24 by 18 for the top part using our new logo, and then 6 by 24 for that bottom part. we'll do this part in-house, but this has to be sent outside, so.
And this replaces the ones that were cut to look like the shape
Right.
of the state of Connecticut,
Right.
so this will be a little more cost efficient, I assume?
Right, oh yeah, a lot more, yeah. So, no, I like it real well.
Right.
They did a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. All right, so we are on to item 4, which is approval of minutes, and we have, sorry about that, we have minutes that were in the packet, and then you should all have minutes from February 26th as well. So we're looking to approve both set of minutes, so Counselor Parker, please.
I make a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole minutes of February 19th, 2019, as well as the Committee of the Whole meeting from Tuesday, February 26th, 2019. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Heed. Is there any discussion on the minutes from the 19th or the 26th? Counselor Zepari, is everything okay with the way the votes are recorded?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you want to just take a minute and look over the second packet that we just received. Looks good there, too. Any discussion on the minutes? Yes, Counselor Atwater.
I'm not finding it, I just found the page, but I want to be clear that my motion was to terminate and not rescind.
Are you talking about the 26th or the
Well, I'm-
19th?
I'm looking at the minutes quickly here to see what it says, and I don't see it.
Are you on the minutes of the 26th, though?
Yes.
Okay, the minutes of the 26th, and you're looking at page... I'm trying to find...
Pages aren't numbered this time. I can see.
It
Page
does say
8?
terminate, it does say terminate in
Page
there.
It does say terminate.
It does say terminate. If you look
Okay,
at the first paragraph on page 8, it says Counselor Atwater moved to recommend to the full council to terminate the Noe
Fine.
Garden.
That's all I wanted to be clear on.
It's
I do
item
recall
5G on page 8 of the 26th minutes. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be clear for the taping so that people can do their minutes. Counselor Franco.
I do recall reading as well in here that it said rescind/terminates on the 19th, somewhere in the
On the
19th.
19th?
The minutes of the 19th. Do you know the page, Counselor Franco?
I'm looking.
Just to note, originally it was asked to be a rescind and then it got changed to terminate during the process.
Do you need another minute to try to find it?
It's
What
at
page?
page 8, 5G. It's titled recension, and then the first sentence is terminate.
But Counselor Franco was referring to another document, I thought.
In the original
Page
packet.
19.
For the minutes, this is the
I can't
minutes
find it
of
at the
the
moment.
26th. And she thought she had seen something in the minutes of the 19th.
Can't find it at the moment.
Okay.
I'm-
Pages, search.
I'm
Mr.
wondering
Booth?
if it's because of the title on that page 8 says rescission of the Noe, because originally it was introduced as a rescission, the original motion request was, and then he followed up with that should be terminated, but it had already been created in the system as a rescission.
Is that what you're referring to? Not sure.
Possibly.
Okay. Are we,
I think it's fine. I mean, I think
Fine.
we understand what the intention is.
okay. Is there any other discussion? Counselor Heed,
Just to clarify for personnel and appointments.
can you give us the page, please, and the date of the
Page
minutes?
10, February 26th.
Okay.
When Counselor Baumgartner had to step down from the SCAT board, creating a vacancy, so will you be referring somebody to the personnel and appointments for us to interview and make a recommendation?
I don't think it goes through personnel and appointments. I think this is just
Just
an
an ad hoc.
appointment. Right. So I'm waiting to hear if any of you are interested in doing this, as he announced it on the 26th. And I threw it out there that I was waiting to hear if the rest of the council had a desire to serve in that capacity.
I had some interest. I emailed Councilor Baumgartner asking him what the time and hours were and so forth, and I never heard back, so I was going to ask him tonight for more clarification.
Okay, or you can send me an email and I'll get it for you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I think it's the third Wednesday.
Anything else? Okay, seeing no further discussion on the minutes, we will vote on accepting the minutes 2019-185, February 19th, and I don't have the Provox number for the 26 minutes as well. All those in favor of the acceptance of both sets of minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So moved unanimously with 7 ayes. Okay, we are on to 2019-186. And you're going to have to bear with me tonight because we have a lot of parliamentary maneuvering to do, so be patient, people, please. So we are on to page 12, Councilor Franco, 2019-186, please.
I make a motion to recommend setting a date for a referendum vote to allow construction of 2 new elementary schools. I so move.
Second?
Moved by Franco and seconded by Atwater. Is there any discussion on the motion to recommend setting the date for the referendum? Councilor Heath.
Could I just ask, how many days before the referendum does this need to be posted?
It's got to be posted twice, one in advance of 30 days and once between 5 and 15 days. And actually, I'll be submitting those tomorrow to be posted.
I'm sorry, the second was between 5 and
15.
5 and 15.
That's because part of it is the regular election in the city. So you trigger 2 different rules there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Councilor Zafari.
I think it's important that we put on the record the reasons why this is necessary. And I would leave that to the mayor to choose those words as she would see fitting.
Okay. And I'm looking for the correct language to use. Give me 1 minute, please. I don't know if I have it actually. Quickly. All right, I will paraphrase, and you stop me if I need to. The posting requirements, the legal notices were not filed in a timely manner, and it is due to error, and because of that, we need to step in and take another action, and that action includes a new referendum in order to verify the prior referendum. Would you like to add anything?
Well, I mean,
Correct.
basically there's 2, we've already started the route of the special legislation. That would basically verify the earlier one if that went. However, this one is a brand new one using the same language. So really just the other one is null and void without special legislation. The rules required a 30-day advance notice and it was put in 20 days beforehand. So that's where the error came in.
So it's a matter of it wasn't posted correctly. Okay.
This,
Councilor Franco.
and this will go to the RTM.
It will not, because they'd already approved the language prior. So this is once we, assuming it's approved at the council meeting, that's it. I post tomorrow and we get going with it.
So what's going to happen is if we approve this motion now in the committee of the whole, we're going to recess committee of the whole, go into a special town council meeting, vote, and come back out, exit the council meeting, come back into COW. So it's all going to happen tonight. That's why I said be patient, because there's lots of parliamentary hoops to jump through. Did you have to follow up?
Just one more question. It's any time before 30 days?
Yes.
Okay.
It just has to be at least 30 clear days is how the rules read.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we will vote on 2019-186, scheduling of repeat referendum. Motion to recommend setting a date for a referendum vote to allow construction of 2 new elementary schools. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? So moved unanimously. At this
Can I point one thing out?
Yes,
before you
Mr.
move
Burton.
on? Just to point out, as we did last time when we were waiting for the referendum, our intent is to keep on with the elementary school planning, because otherwise we would be pushed back a year. So it will be at risk during that time, as we did before. But just want to make sure everybody understands that. But we really have no choice.
Right.
So.
Okay, so at this point, we are going to recess, and it is 6:53. So the cow is in recess at 6:53. Okay, now you all have a special meeting agenda for the council meeting. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Clerk, would you begin, please?
Those in attendance are Mayor Granatowski, Councilor
Excuse me.
Atwater.
Excuse me, we're beginning our next meeting. Mr. Caron?
Those in attendance are Mayor Granatowski, Councilor Atwater, Councilor Franco, Councilor Heed, Councilor Parker, Councilor Schmidt, and Councilor Zapiri. Councilors Baumgartner and Aubrey are absent.
Thank you. We have one item of new business, 2019-186-1. Councilor Heed, this is on page 1. I think it's everything.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I'll make a motion to pass a resolution of Town Council setting referendum date and approving the form of the question concerning proposed bond ordinance, whereas the Town Council,
I'm just checking, I had two versions of it, I'm just making sure it's the correct one. I think that's the correct one. Go for it.
whereas the Town Council and the representative town meeting have approved an ordinance entitled Ordinance Amending Ordinance Number 284, approved at referendum November 8th, 2016, appropriating $184,500,000 for the design and construction of the Groton 2020 plan and authorizing the issue of bonds to finance said appropriation. Now therefore be it resolved that the ordinance be submitted for approval or rejection at a referendum to be held on May 6, 2019. Voters approving the ordinance will vote yes, and those opposing the ordinance will vote no. And be it further resolved that the question to be placed on the voting machines shall be worded as follows. Shall the ordinance modifying the Groton 2020 plan to provide for the new construction of 2 pre-K through grade 5 elementary schools rather than the renovation of schools, and amending ordinance number 284 approved at referendum November 8, 2016, appropriating $184,500,000 for the design and construction of the Groton 2020 plan, and authorizing the issue of bonds to finance said appropriation be approved. And be it further resolved that the town manager is therefore directed to issue any and all warnings, publish all such notices, and file all such statements and reports concerning said referendum as provided by law. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is authorized and directed to prepare a concise explanatory text regarding said ordinance, such text and explanatory material to be subject to the approval of the town attorney and the town mayor, and to be prepared and distributed in accordance with section 9-369B of the Connecticut General Statutes. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Heed, seconded by Parker. Any discussion on this item?
Just have a quick one.
Councilor Franco?
Will the actual explanatory text be the same as the one that was used prior?
Slightly updated. There's a little bit of updating, especially as to where you can get absentee ballots. There's some changes. We've already got it updated and the Spanish language translation done too. So it's all set to go.
Do we know if the vote will be at all
Yes,
normal
it will
polling
be.
locations?
Mhm. Yes, it will be. And they'll all be listed on that explanatory text, all the locations.
And the attorney has approved the explanatory text.
Yes.
Councilor Heed?
Just one thing to mention, May 6th is a Monday, because it's coinciding with the city election, so not the normal Tuesday to vote. It's a Monday.
I'm sure there'll have to be a concerted effort to remind people of that and get out the vote effort as we get closer. So thank you for broaching that at this point. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we will vote on 2019-186-1, scheduling of repeat referendum. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Atwater, seconded by Schmidt. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned at 6:58. Okay. You ready, Mr. Curran? We're coming back into Cal. Okay, 6:58, we are reconvening the Committee of the Whole. And we are on to item 5B, 2019-188 Municipal Video Technician position. And this is on page 13. Councilor Atwater, please.
The background is the library has a vacant municipal video technician position in the AV division due to a resignation in February. The GMTV staff is staffed by 2 full-time employees, the supervisor and municipal video technician, who cover town council and RTM meetings as well as special town meetings and events. They produce several monthly shows highlighting government services and provide Groton residents with town information, especially during emergencies. They also serve the media needs of all town departments. While the time spent taping the meetings and programs is significant, it is only part of the work it takes to get the programs on the air. Each program requires planning, equipment setup, and behind-the-scenes editing. GMTV provides the vital link in getting town information to citizens. Funding for the position is included in the department's budget. It is recommended that the motion be advertised and filled.
Thank you.
This is no action, so just...
Right, just a concurrence of the council. So we have staff with us. Would you just introduce yourselves for the public, please?
Once again, Assistant Town Manager and Director of Human Resources.
Jennifer Mealy, Director of Groton Public Library.
Good evening. We're here to talk about the municipal video technician. Recently, we had a resignation on the video technician, leaving this position vacant. We feel it's a critical position as the workload carried on by this department's clearly grown to have this position justified. Providing tech support for the library's Groton Municipal Television, which provides the production of promotional information, educational, training, town council and RTN meetings. We feel this position will definitely be 2 people to actually make it happen. There is an enormous amount of hours there.
Absolutely. While we carefully conduct a search for a viable candidate over the next month, we plan to bring back a previous employee on a temporary basis to get us through the extremely busy budget season. Just to give you an idea of what's for the next 3 months, we have about over 70 programs that are going to be produced by GMTV. And of course, that's not including the editing and all the back work that goes on in the special projects that this team will provide. So we feel, again, like Bob said, very critical and something it's an immediate need. And of course, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Burt, did you want to add anything on this?
Just that I'm very supportive of it. It'd be pretty hard for one person to cover it. If he was sick, we'd have nobody else to cover it.
Any questions or discussion on this particular item? Councilor Heed.
You may not be able to answer, but any idea why the individual who was there moved on?
Mutual.
We really can't talk about anything that's personnel related.
Maybe we can get a good show on the Appalachian Trail on that.
That's what we're looking at filling in for a month.
Very good.
Shane.
Yeah. Okay. Seeing no discussion, no further discussion, we will vote on 2019-188. Oh, no, we're not voting. Is there any objection to filling this position? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5C. Councilor Schmidt, 2019-173 equipment operator position on page 16. Again, this is no formal action, but if you just want to briefly fill us in on the background, please?
Yes, an equipment operator transferred to the Water Pollution Control Division, the WPCD, effective February 25th, 2019, resulting in a vacancy in the Roads and Streets Division. The job description is current. It accurately reflects the tasks required of this position. And, would you care to elaborate on that?
And if you'd just introduce yourself, please.
My name is Gary Schneider, Director of Public Works.
Fill us in, please. Thank you.
Yes. Bob, you want to start?
Sure.
I'll let Bob start.
For the equipment operator, the vacancy resulted, as the referral mentioned, resulted in the equipment operator that was currently in the position moved to Water Pollution Control Division. That left this position open. This position's in what they call the roads and streets. That's what the assignment is. It includes repair, maintenance of infrastructure, maintains 3 vacated school areas, stormwater, snow, ice control, sidewalk, street repairs, street sweeping, traffic signals, snow plowing. The real factor here too is to look at the maintenance of these projects is really critical to keep the drains open and everything, because this could mean probably a lot of problems for everything from commercial to residential places that apply to.
And as we ramp up, just a little bit deeper into the stormwater, as the communities in this area ramp up into the MS4s, which is the stormwater regulations, require more cleaning, more inspections, more repairs of a system. So the highway department, the roads and streets, has been stable at this since about 1966, having 20 people in that roads and streets division. We've gained probably 15, 20 miles of roads in a period of time. So with due diligence of the workforce, of the proper equipment and training, and that we were able to keep our staff stable as the town grew. And as Bob said, as we have that, this what I feel that this position is critical too is that it provides us with a backbone that in case that there is a weather event, severe weather event, a FEMA event, it provides me with a backbone of enough personnel to manage getting the roads open for the first day to 7 days after that contract. If it was really bad, contractors would come in and open the roads. It also provides a backbone that we can then provide the employees to subcontractors to help clear the roads. So these personnel that I have in the roads and streets, they know the systems, they know the roads, they know the drainage, and it is, I believe, a critical position so that we can perform road maintenance, road clearing, and of course during the storms to provide the services to the town.
Are there any questions for Mr. Schneider? Councilor Franco.
It says here, if it's approved, the position will first be offered to the bargaining unit personnel. And if this occurs from within the department requests the town council to approve the backfilling of this vacated position. So is this all in the same?
Correct. With the bargaining unit, we have to post internal first, and there is a slot that's lower than this. It's a maintainer. So if the person's fully qualified, that person will move up and then open another position up. It still would be part of that 20 people that it is. So what I'm requesting here is that if it's being backfilled from the department, that I'm authorized to fill that. But if it's backfilled, say if a person came over from Parks and Recreation, I would believe then Parks and Recreation would have to come before the council to request the filling of that position.
That's right. That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Did you want to add anything?
No, other than to compliment Gary's crew on the last snow plowing. They had a couple people. Wasn't one supposed to leave for Florida or something, and the rest of the family went, and he stayed behind to help plow? He had a couple people do that type of thing.
There's that one. One was just coming back from a cruise on Sunday. That's when it lands in New York. He was texting all the way in saying that he'd be in. And the third one, how can I put this politely without the HR director here? He got his doctor to review his return to work slip and got him here a day earlier. All legal. It was signed by the doctor. So these people wanted to come to work. These people wanted to come to open up the roads in a town. So I don't know how the person whose family went to Florida and he didn't go fared. He's still working with us, but we'll find out later.
Yeah, but they're a good crew.
Good. Good to know. Anything else? Okay. Again, there's no vote required, but is there objection to Mr. Schneider filling this position? Okay, no objection. Thank you very much. We're on to 5D, 2019-174, and this is on page 17. Another one with no formal action, but Councilor Zepari, would you give us some of the background on the easement over state property, please?
Okay, easement over state property. An easement is required from the state for construction of one of the 2 access drives to the Groton Middle School. Several vehicle access locations to serve the site were investigated in order to provide 2 means of travel to and from the site. It was determined one entrance would use the existing Fitch High School driveway, and the second would be into the entrance driveway to Grasso Tech. The State Department of Education will grant the easement at no cost to the town, and that process is nearing completion. As the easement is from the state, no town signatures are required. Under Section 4.1.2b of the Groton Town Charter, the RTM reserved the power to accept or reject gifts, grants, and bequests of real and/or personal property with a value in excess of $10,000. This can be defined as a gift because it involves no payment from the town, and an easement is an interest in real property. It is the opinion of the town attorney that this section applies and requires RTM action. The town had the easement appraised to determine if Section 4.1.2b of the Groton Town Charter would apply. The appraised value is $18,000.
Thank you, Councilor Zepari. So there's no formal action required. We'll just be looking for consensus again. But then we are at the end going to request, when we get consensus, that this be forwarded to the RTM for action. So is there any discussion on this item? I know our driveway has not been paved yet because we're waiting for construction to start. That way they can come in and do the curb cut, and then they're going to put the final layer of asphalt on the drive up to Grasso Tech. So it'll be kind of nice coming up the hill and having new buildings up there. Welcome, Councilor Baumgartner. Hope you had safe travel from Hartford. All right. Is there any objection to the easement and the forwarding to the RTM for action? No. Okay. Seeing none, we have consensus on that. We are on to item 5E, and we are to Councilor Baumgartner on page 18, 2019-187, Deputy Finance Director position, please.
So I'll make a motion to recommend a resolution to approve the town manager to reinstate a Deputy Director of Finance position, approve the revised job description, and permit the Human Resource Department to post and fill such position. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Baumgartner and seconded by Heed. Hello, again. And would you just introduce yourself, please?
I'm Cindy Landry, the Finance Director.
He's still
Well, it's stated in the
He's still
report.
Bob.
He said he's still Bob.
Never said no.
Wait till next week.
Third time's a charm.
Yes.
As stated in the referral, the roles and responsibilities of the Director of Finance have greatly expanded. I think this is largely to tighten budgets and also to increase reporting requirements with new regulations. Not to mention, the position has oversight on several large divisions: assessing, taxes, purchasing, and accounting. At this point, we've recognized the need for a Deputy Finance Director, as this position will also play a critical role in our ERP, which is the Enterprise Resource Planning, which is the overhauling of our complete IT system or information technology system. So that there would be clearly a need for this position, and that's basically it.
Director Landry, did you want to address anything here?
Well, I think that I've been the finance director for about 4 years, and during that time, I've lost 3 of my key positions there in the department. And it's losing the long-term employees has made me also realize that we don't really have any succession planning in finance. And I think that I need someone to come in at the ground level, particularly with the school projects that's coming up. We're going to be looking at going for bonds and notes for the next 5 years. As Bob Betts mentioned, the ERP. And I think now's the time to reinstate this position, which did exist, I believe in 1990 it was eliminated. And I've been asked if I need the help, and yes, I do need the help.
Mr. Burt, please.
And I've talked to the council about this previously a few times, and one of the things I'm hoping to get out of this is to, once the person's up to speed, that it'll free up time for Cindy to work with me to review all the different department functions and really dig into the budget and make recommendations to the council, but there's just not that time currently. So, but it will take a while to get the person up to speed.
So any potential restructuring of departments or anything, Director Landry would be able to help you with once you have the free time.
And I should point out that this is built into the new budget that I'm in my town manager's budget.
Thank you. Councilor Perry?
No, let's go. I think it's a good idea.
Councilor Baumgartner?
Could you illuminate a little bit on the, is it the enterprise resource planning implementation, exactly what that looks like and what that is?
Well, we're looking at buying an enterprise resource system, which is replacing, we currently have a software package. And right now we're just looking at the GL package and the human resources and,
stuff.
Pardon me?
Just make it clear, yeah, the finance software.
Right. So we're looking at that, but it's going to be in multiple phases, but the biggest part is to replace the financials to get us all, replace our time and attendance. And both systems that we're on now are very old, and they've really outlived their usefulness. But it's going to be a long term, probably 2 years, 2-year project. And the system we're on now, I was here when we implemented it, and I remember what it was like. So, and this is a much more robust system because at that time we just did the financials, and now we're looking to start with the financials, move to the human resources and payroll side, and then bring in other departments and other modules so they're all in one fully integrated system. We do so much manual work now from having a different cashiering system and a different time and attendance system and a different GL system. So this will bring us all together with one system.
Now, as you said, your office handles the bond issuances for the school projects, but maybe later down the road, that's where the council will be looking for more cost savings. Could you foresee potentially down the road, Groton maybe collaborating on finance work with, say, the Board of Education?
It's a possibility. I don't know what their plans are for what kind of financial software that they're going to be looking at, or if they'll be joining with us. But as far as the bonding, the town would handle all of the bonding for the town-wide. But sure, go ahead.
No, Penimation is no longer supported for towns. Is that our finance software?
It is supported, but it's when we put the ERP together, it was determined that the Tyler Munis software would better fit our needs.
Right. I think the school's not moving at this point to the Tyler.
Yeah.
That could be an issue, because I'm not sure the schools are moving at this point. So.
And even though the problem we have now, even though we're on the same system, we're not networked. So that would be an additional expense to try to get us to work together. So it's a long-term goal. I just don't know how far out it might be.
So in your eye, is that potentially something the deputy position can, or the new deputy could take a look at?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually,
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
Oh, well, one last note. A former colleague of yours and your superior says hello, the former Director of Finance, Linda Savitsky.
Linda Savitsky, she was a wonderful person. When she came here as a finance director, and oddly enough, Linda came here and she hired Sal Pandolfo as the deputy, and then he took over when she went to OPM many, many years ago. But she taught me a lot. She brought me a long ways. She was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Franco.
So how quickly do you think you're going to fill the position?
As quick as possible. But I'm hoping to get it filled by the end of the year, because once I get approval, then we'll put it out. You know, it's a long-term process to fill a position of this level.
Right.
But I am looking to get it filled by the last quarter of the year. The sooner I can get this position in, the sooner that I can start working with them. I'm hoping to get someone in that has governmental experience. You just don't know. If I have to start with someone from the private sector, it'll take a little bit longer on the training.
Yeah. And you have money in your budget for this?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's another piece of this too that works well. This Munis system that we're going into is widely used through a lot of the municipalities and everything. So we're hoping that with somebody seeing that we advertise it in that way, they'll see Munis, and maybe that will bring more people into the system. Just seeing that that's something we'll be, something to be familiar with. And that could also, down the road, when we're looking at if the school ever wanted to come on board with that and they change their system, that may be something they'd look at because of the widespread, the success of this. And there was a big selection, Climb First. We had worked a long time with them to figure out which was the best system, and apparently this is it. We've been going through the project the last couple of weeks with Munis now that it's been turned over from Climb First, and it looks very promising.
Councilor Schmidt.
I just think it's been made very clear to us that the finance department has been understaffed for some time now, and I think that hopefully this will correct what that problem has been.
It'll be a big help.
Right.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so we actually do have to vote on this one. So seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote on 2019-187 Deputy Finance Director position. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are now at 8 counselors. Thank you. So we are on to item 5F. And Councilor Atwater will let you take this one? No?
Just the motion.
Yes.
I have a change in the motion. Can I make that as I read it? The second rescission should be termination.
Go ahead.
Motion to rescind the vote to postpone the termination of the Noank School Public Gardens Task Force guiding document to the Committee of the Whole meeting on April 23rd, 2019.
You so moved?
I so move. Second.
Moved by Atwater and seconded by Heed. Could you just commit that to writing, please, and then we can get that to staff for the minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, so keep this aside so I can turn that in. All right, so just so everyone is clear on what this means, if we vote in favor of this motion, then the postponement goes away, and Councilor Atwater's original motion is back on the floor. So is there discussion? I believe we can have discussion on the move to rescind. Councilor Perry.
I think we should first have a discussion about why the motion to rescind has been made. Is there something new that we could not consider at the time that we made the motion to postpone? Is there some compelling reason that's arisen since we made that vote?
Councilor Atwater, would you like to address?
No, I don't feel that there's any reason that I have to say anything.
So now we're to reconsider something we considered before, but for no particular reason.
We're not reconsidering this. What's on the floor is a motion to rescind the postponement.
Okay.
That's what we're voting.
But in rescinding, the motion that we're doing now is we're dealing with the same motion we once dealt with, and there is nothing new to justify going ahead with it. And if I may, I would like to avail myself of 5 minutes. The reasons for postponing that motion to terminate the agreement are as compelling today as they were 2 weeks ago when we decided to postpone. The the group for the No Ink Public Gardens they came to us about 4 weeks ago, or maybe a little more, and presented a very good discussion. And it seemed like they had things together of what they wanted to accomplish. They had a landscaped architect. They were going to create a park. And the first step in that creation was to develop a pavilion on the grounds. It had seemed like they were better organized at that time than they had been in the past, and they said they could raise money by April 4th and raise sufficient funds to begin the construction of that pavilion. I'm afraid that by even having this motion to take back our motion to postpone, we've interfered with their ability to raise those funds in the time allowed. Because we've let the public know that we're considering going back on our word. We're considering simply ending the project there and bring it to a termination. And therefore, they were seeking funding from individuals in the public. And if the public knows that we are considering terminating in the near future, they're less likely to make those contributions. And I feel badly for that. I also feel that we have a duty to live up to what we say. Last week, I softly objected to the sale of property to Mr. Drake. But the council decided to go ahead with it, and the main argument in favor of going ahead with that sale is that we had previously led Mr. Drake to take an action to get an appraisal of that property so that he could purchase it, and we had implied that we would approve the purchase. And so we felt an obligation to live up to what we said in the past. I think that holds true here too. We said that we were going to put this vote off until April 23rd. That's just a month away now. And we can stay true to our word by just staying with the motion to postpone and keeping it as it was. We all got an email from Liam Obry, who's away now, but still wants to keep her hand in her spoon in the soup. Bless her soul. At any rate, she makes the point that we have a duty to be consistent. We have a duty to live by the agreements that were made not only by us, but by prior councils. And I think that we would not do well. We would not appear honest. We would not appear reliable if we go back on a decision we made before when there's really nothing new to say, hey, we made a mistake last time because of this new evidence. But there is no new evidence and there is no new claim. I think we should live with what we've decided to do. It's only a month. There's no loss in making that decision in a month. And if the Knowing Gardens group can get the money for their pavilion, the town of Groton will have a beautiful park, well, is on the way to having a beautiful park, replacing the dilapidated condition of the present green, and it will, and we're not going to have to pay for it. It'll be paid for by donations from the public who are supporting them. I think this is a win-win if they can do it. I also think as far as the people are concerned, having a park in the area increases the value of surrounding properties, and we'll see that market value increase, and we will see an appreciation in the grand list. So all of these things considered, I think we should stay with our initial decision to postpone this decision. Thank you.
I was just going to take a minute and read Councilor Obry's statement, if you don't mind. So Councilor Obry is unavailable to be here this evening, but she did email, and I'm reading from her email. I all wanted to share my feeling about this whole Noah and Garden situation. Hope it is not too late. It is very obvious that leadership is lacking, and with the current group, not much will be accomplished. That being said, we must honor commitments made by previous councils. Whether we agree or not on purpose at this time, not much damage will be done in the next 2 years. Maybe they will pull themselves together. They certainly know the entire town will be watching as to what happens. At the end of that time, no matter who is sitting on the council, it will be reviewed. I would suggest a review every 4 months with an update on progress and fundraising. Personally, if I was part of a new committee and could not organize in 6 years, I would end it. You had a great idea, but truly your community is not behind you. Ask yourself, what are we doing? Does the community want this park or just not wanting anyone else to have control? You may be being used. Then she said, feel free to read this if you feel it might help. I will be watching. Good luck. So hello, Councilor Aubrey. Councilor Heed.
So I admit I was torn on this subject because I voted to postpone the decision, give them until whatever it was, April 23rd, 26th. But as I see it, the exercise has been flawed from the beginning and simply is not measuring up. The immediate neighborhood is clearly committed to the project but lacks in organization, financing, and manpower. And only now, after 4 years, do they seem to be taking the council seriously and trying to raise funds. But how many of these projects will end up being dropped at the feet of the taxpayers as a whole? And as evidence, they've started to add us on their emails that are going out. And so now they're talking, I think Councilor Atwater and I were very clear, we expected funds to be cash on hand, not pledges. So I have here, I don't know what the date is, but it cites a task force being introduced in May of 2008. And then in 2010, Mayor Streeter appointed members to seek a resolution, basically. It goes through March. You know, I'll put this on the record. But I think there's an interesting part here that says, according to the letter, they have secured conditional pledges of donations from local residents in an amount in excess of $80,000 to help defray the costs of building, removal, and park improvements for the specific reuse plan. They've raised approximately $88,500, and now they're sending out emails asking for people to make pledges again. So I feel like the goalposts keep moving, and they're not taking us seriously. And with all due respect to them, I think it's done.
Councilor Franco.
I understand your concern about possibly breaking an agreement, but I also they had an agreement with us as well, and I don't think they've held up their side of their agreement as well. There is a duty to live up to what you say, and I think that goes both ways, and I think we're holding them accountable, and just now, because we're holding them accountable, they are now trying to do something. I think they had, they came before us and they said their projects are going to be 7 figures. I mean, $1 million project. And they literally, last time they came here, had $2,500 in the bank.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt for a second. We need to make sure the discussion is kept on the move to rescind at this point, and I feel like we're going kind of off, so try to kind of focus it back in on the move to rescind, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Mr. Walter had stated that a majority of the fundraising, and this is from the minutes, the majority of the fundraising for the pavilion will be done by March 18th, and the remaining funds will be raised by the April 5th. So by next week, they thought they should have $50,000, and from what I'm hearing, they're not near that. And they are asking for pledges. They're not, I mean, I'm sure they're asking for donations as well, but they're also now asking for pledges, because I've seen postings of it. So I think I would go forward with removing the postponement.
Any other councilors wish to speak? Councilor Atwater.
I guess I'd like to just address the whole, discussion of breaking of contracts and so on and so forth. And when you enter into, whether it's a guiding document or an agreement or a memorandum of understanding, it's a bilateral sort of, I mean, it's between two parties, and there are positions in the agreement that say this party will do this and this party will do this. And if you entered into a contract, I was thinking if a business came into town and they said that they were going to make plastic bags, paper bags because of the problem with plastic and so forth. And then within 2 months, they started running an incinerator business and burning trash. Clearly, you'd break the agreement with them because they weren't living up to what they said they would do. And I think it's the same thing here. It's been going on for 4 years, and it clearly says in the guiding document that it's at the discretion of the town council. So I think I guess I'd have to say it's sort of like what they're saying now in Washington. You have to live up to the Congress has the constitutional duty to live up to the Constitution. And I think we as a council have to live up to our duty to do what we see as being fit. And if they haven't lived up to their agreement in 4 years, then I think it's our discretion to terminate. And that's my feeling about it. And I will have to add, I know this isn't about the agreement, but again, it's to terminate the existing task force. Never in my motion did I ever say, sell the land, build this, do that. It was to terminate the stewards because I didn't feel they were doing the job. Thank you.
Councilor Baumgartner.
A question and then a comment. John, now within the task force document, is there, in terms of membership, are there hard lines in terms of number of members that can participate, length of term? Was that ever established in the document?
2014 guiding document. It's been a while since I've reviewed those, so I can't really say offhand.
We're trying to keep the discussion on the motion to rescind at this point.
Correct. So just a clarifying question, how can we talk about the rescission of the document if we can't talk about the document itself?
We're not rescinding the document, we're rescinding the motion to postpone. That's all this is at this point, is a motion to rescind Councilor Zepari's motion to postpone.
Okay.
So we're trying to get the original document, or the original motion from Councilor Atwater back on the floor to discuss it.
And then, okay, and so would that happen immediately after?
Yes, it goes
Okay.
back on the floor. So once the postponement is rescinded, if the postponement is rescinded, Councilor Atwater's motion is on the floor. And at that point, we're open for all manner of discussion.
Can I just make are you done?
Well, if he's finished, please.
Yeah, all right, I'm not sure I can comment then, because I did have some questions just about
The
kind of
document
the
itself,
document
right.
itself, so.
Right. Is anyone who hasn't spoken yet wish to speak before we go back to second time? Okay, Councilor Franco.
I just wanted to make a note that Councilor Zepari's reason for postponement may not have been my reason for postponement. I mean, he verbally said what his reasons were that night, but that wasn't my reason to postpone.
Okay.
So.
Councilor Zepari?
No, it was only Mr. Atwater.
All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, we'll go back to Councilor Schmidt and then Councilor Zepari.
I just feel that it's strange that we would rescind this motion because we're planning to look at it within a matter of a few weeks. And the time span that's been given for the fulfillment of the raising of funds is only, I think, 2 weeks away. So I see no reason to speed it up. It seems to me that we could wait and do the honorable thing.
Councilor Zepari.
I could not speak any more eloquently than Councilor Schmidt just did.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. So this vote is to rescind the vote to postpone the termination of the Noang School Public Gardens Task Force guiding document to the Committee of the Whole meeting on April 23rd, 2019. That's what we're voting on at this point. Okay? So all those in favor of rescinding the vote to postpone, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It'll be
Aye.
easier to do it that way. Okay, so hold on. I have to write this. Opposed, Zepari, Schmidt, Baumgartner. So then that means in favor, Atwater, Granatowski, Heed, Franco. Abstentions? Okay, so we have 5 in favor, 3 opposed, 0 abstentions. So the move to rescind passes. So at this point now, Counselor Atwater's motion is on the floor. And Counselor Atwater, did you want to read it again, please? For the minutes?
I don't know quickly if I have that copy.
Is this the correct item? Okay, so this is received from, I won't put anything on it. Right, but this came from you, so I'll just put your name on it. Excuse me one second, Counselor Atwater.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so Counselor Atwater will now read what his original motion was.
All right, my original motion was moved to recommend to the full council to terminate Noank School Public Gardens Task Force guiding document and to direct the manager to consult with staff and offer a recommendation on potential uses of the property and recommend, with the understanding of recommending an area reserved for a public garden / natural playground area.
Okay, and that's what's on the floor right now. So now we can go back in and we can go into the discussion on this particular motion. I had cut Counselor Franco off and Counselor Baumgartner off when they were going into this matter. So would you like to pick up where you left off, and then, or should we go with Counselor Baumgartner? I'm sorry?
Counselor Baumgartner.
Counselor Baumgartner.
So again, John, do you know, so we don't know kind of the length of, the term lengths or?
No, I was just looking, I just looked up the original establishing resolution, and there were 7 members appointed. However, I don't have the original guiding document in my files with me.
And that is the 2011 document?
I think this, hold on a second. 2014 is when they had that earlier task force that looked at what to do with the property. That morphed, and in 14 they created the new task force. So really, it's based on the 2014.
Which document are you looking for?
Do you have? Okay. Can I see?
Counselor Baumgartner, which one were you referencing, please?
So in terms of membership, the length, the term length?
No, were you referencing the 2011 or the 2017?
The was replaced in 14 with the
So
new
the most recent document, so the guiding
So
document
17.
is the most recent 2014 document.
What we're looking for, the establishing resolution itself refers to another document, so we're trying to find the other document.
With thanks to Ms. Verlagra for providing documents. Wealth of knowledge. So do you have everything you need now, Mr. Burt, or do you need me to look things up?
It doesn't look like they set any certain terms in there. It's more about their purpose, their work plan responsibilities, reporting requirements, and then there's nothing about this, the length of terms, or even living. They originally appointed 7 people, but it didn't say it had to stay 7 people.
So, so the folks who are on, I know there have been countless people who had served on the task force or and have since left the area. So, does anyone on the council, or do you have knowledge of the process by which you would go through?
They do go through the council. It's gone through personnel committee, and regularly then any official members do go through the town council. Now volunteers, of course, see if they can have as many volunteers as they want separately.
And to our knowledge, are all 7 of those positions filled on that task force?
I'd have to ask, but I don't have that list. So I mean, personnel committee might be better. I'm not involved in the personnel process with that.
Dr. Johnson replied yes.
And so each member of that task force had been voted by the council. And do you have a knowledge of whether or not that task force was approved by the current council? Any new, additional members?
I believe there was one recently, within the last 2 months.
And during that time period, was there any discussion about the task force whatsoever, or about what that person was going to do on the task force? Or
Again, most of it's handled at personnel committee.
We appointed personnel committee rather made the recommendation to the town council to appoint somebody whose name escapes me, but I believe she was going to be the treasurer, as I recall.
Ms. Thomas?
I'm not sure. I don't remember at all. I'm sorry.
think it was
Mrs. Thomas.
Did you
Oh, then
need the
she's the
2014
secretary.
agreement, Mr. Burton?
I think it's Tamara Rich. Is that who it was?
Oh, Rich?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Tamara.
Mr. Burt, did you need the 2014 agreement?
Depending on where, I think
I don't want to belabor the point,
Okay.
but I think what I'm trying to get to is where we just rescinded a document that, it doesn't seem like and I don't want to speak for the entire council, but I think we should really try to grapple on what the task force was meant to do, what their purpose was and their mission. Certainly they deviated by virtue of a lack of housekeeping, not maintaining the proper meeting minute notes, and what have you. But I think it's been explicitly clear that there is going to be a course correction, and I think that's quite evident by the fact that there have been dozens upon dozens of folks who have reached out to us via email, who have come to the council to express their concerns about how the council has discussed this topic in the last few weeks. And I think we do a great disservice to, I think, Knowing in particular, because it's, quite frankly, it's, the park is situated in the heart of Knowing. It isn't necessarily an issue that is confronting any other corner of Groton. I think it would be a mistake to ignore a part of our citizenry on something that is near and dear to their community and to their hearts. And I think if they've expressed a willingness to fundraise to support a community park in Groton, that quite frankly most other municipalities would support out of pocket, the fact that there's a willingness within the community to kind of take this on when there are no clear alternatives as to what to do with this property. We can certainly do away with this task force, and then next thing you know, 5-10 years later, it's still grass fields that hasn't been developed, that isn't contributing to the tax rolls. That's certainly something that's not unique to Groton or certainly any other community here in southeastern Connecticut. So I think before we jump the gun and ignore really the plea of countless folks who are looking to us for guidance and are looking to be a part of a very collaborative process here, where they've done beautiful designs of a community park that from someone from within town. I think we'd be doing a great disservice to a lot of folks who would like to be a part of this process and like to enhance their community even more. So, in doing so, in investing in our public spaces, that will create that will result in an increase in property revenues for surrounding properties, and that will be a tax revenue generator for our community. Whereas I think a point was made in the previous testimony that if we're looking to make a quick buck here and develop the property into residential properties, it could be a revenue loser in large part because there will be you could have single-family homes that where certainly where folks who are raising a family may have children, and obviously those properties would not necessarily be contributing to the tax rolls, in large part because there is a cost associated with educating school children. And as you can see throughout town, there are many homes within Groton that are for sale, that have been on the market for some time. And so we should think long and hard that, before we do away with public space that is used by folks throughout town, that we are, one, being good stewards of that land, and two, not making any reckless decision that could actually cost Groton more in the long term. So I think this would be a grave mistake to do away with this. I think we've belabored this, talking about this for far too long. There are really pressing matters confronting town. It goes without saying that there should be better oversight over there should be better oversight over this task force, and I think we've all made that explicitly clear. But moving forward, I think we need to come back to the negotiating table, have a conversation with the task force members, and find a solution that we can all agree to. But I think just to rescind the document will not, nobody will win by doing so. So I'm vehemently opposed to it, and I'd implore all of my colleagues to vote against this proposal.
So just for clarification purposes, nothing in Councilor Atwater's motion references selling the property. And this is not a rescission, this is a termination. So we're done with the rescind, and now we're on to terminating an agreement.
And just to clarify, that is worse. Terminating, I was being light in the language of yes, we're doing away with the document, but terminating the document is to say we're not going to do anything. We need to have a plan in place.
Councilor Baumgartner?
Yes.
Councilor Heed wanted to speak as well, please. Go ahead. We'll come back to you.
There needs to be an established policy that treats all excess town properties the same way, not excluding neighborhoods or people who are very interested in what's going on in their immediate area, but also engages the entire town. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, you go through an RFP process. And when you look at Groton Heights School, we can't talk about it because it isn't public yet, but everybody says we want a residential community out of this. And it turns out you go through the RFP process, you challenge the submitters on their ideas, on their financial abilities, on the process of from beginning to completion through phase 1, 2, 3, et cetera. And sometimes you can get an opportunity that nobody's thought of that's really exciting, and it might be better than the idea that you have going on right now. And in this case, if you compare how this school was handled versus how the school in Mystic was handled, the Mystic school, when they tore it down, they left a small portion as a park. I think there should be a garden, there should be a park, regardless. Whatever way we end up going in with this property, but it's a town property, it's not a knowing property, and the town has responsibility for it. And I'll remind you that 4 years ago, they had pledges amounting to $80,000. And it's shown that they have raised in 4 years $8,500 or thereabouts. And now they're looking for pledges again, not cash in hand. So I don't have confidence in the process, and I think something needs to be done to either give them a better process or change the way that we're looking at vacant property. It's got to be fair to everybody, and it's got to be viable.
Thank you. Councilor Schmidt, and then I would like to speak.
We're acting tonight to vote on whether or not to terminate a document. We don't even know what is in the document. We haven't had an opportunity to look at it. I think that that would just be a very foolish thing to go ahead and say yes or no. I think it requires a great deal of thought, and looking into it, we might want to amend it rather than terminate it. I think that we have to be very careful in what we do in this next vote that we're going to be taking. And I would hope that everybody will reconsider the term termination. I think that is something that we will have to live with for a very long time. We want to make sure that we're right about it.
Just for clarification, we received all the documents. We received the 2014, we received the 2017, none of which we were party to negotiating or enacting. At this point, I'd like to make an amendment to Councilor Atwater's motion, please. And it would read, let's see, do you want me to read the whole thing? So Councilor Atwater says, move to recommend to the full council to terminate the Noank School Public Garden Task Force guiding document and to direct the manager to consult with staff and offer a recommendation on potential uses of the property and recommend an area reserved for a public garden natural playground area. My amendment adds into appoint a new 3-member task force to allow for the current garden spot to be cultivated in spring 2019 until such time as the council renders a decision on future use of the town property. I so move.
Second.
moved by Granatowski, seconded by Heed. So I'm going to speak on this. So what this does is it allows us to go forward with the process that I want to see happen. And what I would like to see happen is for town staff to take a look at the property and see what the best use is. And no one has said sell the property. We're talking about what is the best use for this property. And the manager and his staff are working on codifying the process that they've been using, that they used for at the Groton Heights School, the process they used there. So they're trying to get it into a formal document so that we can use it for all the excess town property that we have. What I've added to this, though, is allowing for a new 3-member group, and we could select who we would like to be manning that group. We had a request today in the meeting that we had. Mr. Wright asked that they be allowed to cultivate the current garden space, and I have no problem with that, but I do think we need to have new people appointed to manage that garden plot. And it would be in effect until we get back from the manager the staff recommendation for what we should do with the property. At that point, when the council decides what we want to do with the property, then we can figure out where it fits in. Perhaps there will be another garden there. Maybe it won't be in that spot. Maybe it'll go open space. We don't know. We don't know until we hear from the professionals, and that's why we pay them. So that's the rationale for my motion, and we can go with any new speakers at this point. Anyone else? And then we can go second-time
Can you
speakers.
just repeat that one more time for me?
Yes, so it's Councilor Atwater's motion. And then I added on, and to appoint a new 3-member task force to allow for the current garden spot to be cultivated in spring 2019 until such time as the council renders a decision on future use of the town property. Councilor Parker?
Question, the 3-member task force, is this going to go through the personnel? Is it going to be an application process, or is this going to be an appointment?
Most of the time when we're doing task forces, we are asking for people to apply with the clerk's office, and then those applications are vetted through personnel and appointments. So it would eventually come to us by way of the Personnel and Appointments Committee. So we would all have a chance to weigh in on the people that we would want to be handling the garden portion of the town property. Do we have other new speakers? Has everybody spoken? Let me see. So Baumgartner, Heed.
Just want to clarify on personnel,
yes.
if I could. Just for the record, the members of the Personnel and Appointments Committee are myself, Councilor Schmidt, and Councilor Zapiri.
Okay. All right, so we're going back through here now, and I asked Councilor Baumgartner to, I thought you spoke at the beginning. Oh, you spoke on the other one. I'm sorry, Councilor Zapiri, go ahead.
Last week, we had a large number of people come here to tell us how much they love the gardens. There were a few people who spoke against the gardens, but a lot of people, just as it is, without improvements that the task force is now trying to make. If we cancel the agreement with them and then no longer trying to make improvements to that ground, and the only way any improvements will be made is if we spend taxpayers' money and take money out of the pockets of the taxpayers to do it. We now have open space, and as the space is now, many people appreciate it just as it is. And I just think I would hate to see us have to put another burden on the taxpayer when there's some hope that it can be controlled in the same purpose of keeping the open space and keeping a park in that area will be met by having the present task force continue. There is, I mean, it's, as I said before, this is a win-win situation if they can do what they said they wanted to do. And even if they can't, I was very much moved by the lady who lives in the neighborhood and came and told us how much peace she found in just walking through that open space and sitting in the middle of the green area. I don't think we can have enough open spaces. I think we have to preserve that, and to do it at the town's expense, I think that's too much of a burden on the taxpayers. So I think this would be the best opportunity to preserve that as open space. So I am opposed to any motion to terminate the agreement with the Noe Gardens Task Force.
Okay, so we have Counselor Franco, hasn't spoken, and I have, has Counselor Parker spoken?
Yeah, just have one question.
Counselor Franco?
I like the amendment so that they can continue to garden. And regardless of what the town manager's committee finds or recommends, there's going to be a recommendation that a garden area / park area remains in that area for the neighbors to enjoy. So I am in full support of what you've just, your amended motion. Thank you.
Counselor Parker and then Baumgartner.
Just clarification, the open space that's out there, and if there was a pavilion put on the land, the town would have to take care of it anyways, is that correct?
I think if you were going to give permission, we'd want to update the agreement to specify who's going to maintain it.
Okay.
I would have a concern over us spending dollars on maintaining, but that could be worked out in an agreement.
Further questioning, we're already mowing, are we mowing the entire area? I wasn't clear on that from the last discussion. Who's mowing
They're
that
probably
open
better
space now?
positioned. I know they mow around some of the trees and the garden area, but I think the Parks and Rec mows the rest, is that right? Okay,
So the town is taking care of
the bulk.
the
right.
bulk besides the garden?
Right.
Okay.
Counselor Baumgartner. Thank you for your patience.
No, absolutely. I know there's been a song that has been remade over many, many years, a Joni Mitchell song, and it has the lyrics, "Paved paradise, put up a parking lot." And I worry that after this process, if we're looking to, through an RFP process, we're looking to make use of the property in some way to grow the tax base, that we're going to do it at the expense of, as Councilor Zapiri said, a very beautiful open space that can be appreciated by everyone in town. It goes without question that the proposals that have been put forth by the task force in the last month are plans that everyone in the town can benefit from, whether it's the sledding hill, whether it's rain gardens within the community park, whether it's putting in plants that are native plants and having a healing garden. These are things that everyone can appreciate. Certainly we can talk about whether or not the task force has the capacity to raise these funds. That's a question we will have to, that they'll have to answer themselves over the coming weeks if they're afforded the opportunity to continue fundraising as part of their efforts to build this community garden. But I think it'd be a huge mistake to pull the rug from under their feet and not give them a chance to really put together, I think, a really great proposal that I think everyone in town can enjoy. So I really hope the council reconsiders, doing away with terminating this document.
Counselor Atwater.
I have one question about your amendment, and then I have another comment. Giving the right to continue the garden, it seemed like it was open-ended.
It is,
And
let's see.
I'm only concerned that if the planning commissioner, the town manager, whatever, comes up with some plan or whatever, and they're still gardening, is this going to be an encumbrance on trying to do their plan? Is what I'm.
No, I wrote,
Seemed like
to allow to be cultivated in spring 2019 until such time as the council renders a decision on the future of the town property.
But
So when
does
we
that-
decide
Right,
what
but if
we're going to
that-
do
but
with
if-
it, then they cease to,
But if nothing was decided for 3 years, could they continue to do cultivation year after year?
yes, that's what I intended.
Okay.
If you'd
And
like
that's-
to, you can change.
Well, no, I mean, I wanted to be clear on that.
Right.
Again, just a couple of comments that were made. And again, my motion is not to sell the property, but since there's a lot of talk about that, it's conceivable that you could put up individual housing, and it could be all elderly people that move in, and you'd get an increase in the tax base rather than an expense to the school. So using that argument, it can go either way. I do recall last week somebody made the comment that if you had a family of 2 children come in, it would cost the town $16,000. But if the land were left for open space, it benefited the town by $26,000 or $24,000 because of the water aquifer and the clean air and so forth. And the illogical conclusion to that is, why don't we make the whole town open space, and then we'll have a huge sum of money. But beside that, they talk about if it's open space, if it's a garden, it will increase the property values around there. But if you put a development of some sort in there, it increases that value, I would guess, more than the increase in the property values around there. So I'm only saying that it's the kind of argument you say this, but it could be that. You say that, it could be this. I mean, it's got to be what overall I think is best. So,
Councillor Heath.
Just to echo Councillor Atwater, I mean, one of the challenges we have in Newark, and one of the reasons why I've been on the fence with this, is more of the property is turning into vacation homes and, not families necessarily. So you're kind of having a hollowing out of the community. That's why it seems like total hypothesis, but they're not really able to even maintain a store in Newark because there's not enough people. So you want to do something that builds community. And I don't think there's any reason to think that if houses were to go in, that it would be families, or, it might be 50-50 families and 50-50 vacationers, but that's neither here nor there. I think environmental concerns are very high on this council's list. I can't speak for you, but I have spoken with you, so I know that that's true. But what I think is interesting is I have the Knowing School Reuse survey results, and the same comments that are being made time and time again were made in this survey back in 2011, August of 2011. And it seems to me the issue is just not resolved. And we need to come up with a resolution to this. Otherwise, it's going to be a thorn in our side, a thorn in the next council's side, a thorn in the town side. And I think I really would like to have a policy for what we do with excess properties, so that it takes the neighborhood into consideration, it takes the environment into consideration, it takes the whole town into consideration. And I can give that for the minutes too.
Okay. And the other thing is, whatever town staff would recommend as a possible use for the property, nothing can be done unless NOANC approves it. So NOANC zoning is in place, and they will have the say over it. So it's not like we're going to put in a paper mill. We can't put in a paper mill. It has to be something that conforms to the use of the village. So there's yet another safeguard in place. So I don't think by asking town staff to look at the property, the town excess property, and figure out what we could possibly do with it, what the potential is of this property, I think it would be more of a disservice to not look at the potential of the property, and to consider what our options are. That's what we're charged with. We're charged with looking out for the whole town. So, anyone else want to speak? Okay, give me 1 second. What's today? Well,
Yes.
okay, is there any further discussion?
Can I just clarify?
Councilor Franco.
So if this fails, we just maintain what we have now and go forward?
If we vote the amendment first, correct, Mr. Burton?
Correct.
We vote on the amendment to Councilor Atwater's motion to terminate.
Mm-hmm.
If that fails, then we're back to Councilor Atwater's motion to terminate.
I see.
If
Thank
it
you.
passes, then we vote Councilor Atwater's motion with the amendment attached to it. Okay, everybody clear? Councilor Saperi.
Would Councilor Atwater be willing to withdraw his initial motion in favor of the amendment?
My amendment
Yes.
tags onto his.
That's right. but so that we don't vote twice in that event.
It's entirely up to Counselor Atwater, but I amended his motion.
I don't understand what you're,
I'm asking, the real issue is, are we going to terminate the agreement with the Knowing Gardens Task Force? Both motions deal with that, only Patrice's, I think, is a more favorable thing, and that is to get staff to determine what the best use of the land is. But the basic issue is whether or not we terminate the task force. If you don't agree that Patrice's amendment adds an improvement to your amendment, then I think I can't tell you what to do, but I think it would be good for you to stand by your guns. But otherwise, I think you should abandon the original motion in favor of the amended motion.
I think just
but
for
she didn't
clean,
make a motion, she just amended
I
my
amended
motion.
his.
Yeah.
So
I
if
just-
I withdraw my motion, then all we're voting on is continuing gardening.
I don't think so.
So I think in order to keep it clean the way we have it right now, we should vote the amendment. And then if the amendment fails, then we're back to the original. If the amendment passes, then we vote the amended motion. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, so seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, hold on. No.
Rita?
Okay, hold on. Perry, Schmidt, Baumgartner. Abstentions? Okay, so then in favor, we have Atwater, Granatowski, Heed, Franco, Parker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 3 opposed, Zepari, Schmidt, Baumgartner, and 0 abstention. So the amendment passes. So now we have on the floor the amended motion, which was Counselor Atwater's with the amendment. Is there any further discussion on the amended motion?
I thought we just passed it.
We passed the amendment, now we need to vote the whole thing. So the original motion now has the amendment attached to it. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of
Wait,
the...
wait, wait.
Counselor Parker,
Sorry,
that's okay. Better now than after we vote.
it's been a long day. You guys have to forgive me. So we are now going back to the motion with the amendment to vote again that we could,
Do you want to read it?
Yes.
I'll read the whole thing that we're voting on now, okay? So the vote right now is asking for, move to recommend to the full council to terminate the Knowing School Public Gardens Task Force guiding document and to direct the manager to consult with staff and offer a recommendation on potential uses of the property and recommend an area reserved for a public garden and natural playground area, and to appoint a new 3-member task force to allow for the current garden spot to be cultivated in spring 2019 until such time as the council renders a decision on the future use of the town property.
okay, question.
Yes.
Can there be a time limit for town staff on determining the use of the property?
I think we can do that just by direction. Is that correct, Mr. Burt?
Yeah, I'll do whatever you say.
And on top of that, I want to make sure that the zoning has input before the decision's brought to us. So if the town staff and zoning talk before bringing it back to us, that way we can have clear direction from both of them at the same time, instead of running back and forth and having everybody, oh yeah, one group comes in and the other group comes in after. I just want them both to talk together, to work it out together.
I would assume that staff would be talking to them and only offering things that would be permissible under the zoning regulations.
Correct.
I just
No,
wanted
thank
to-
you for clarifying. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we are voting on the motion as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, hold.
Nay.
So Perry,
Isn't it nay?
Schmidt, Baumgartner, any abstentions?
Yes.
Counselor Parker?
Yes.
Yes or no?
It's abstain.
Counselor Parker's abstaining. So those in favor are Atwater, Granatowski, Heed,
I'm conflicted. I'm so conflicted.
Franco,
Making a decision is why we get paid the big bucks.
yes, why we get paid the big bucks. Counselor Parker, I need a vote, please.
I know.
We are at 4-3, and we need your vote. Vote with what you can live with when you wake up tomorrow morning.
I'm trying to balance out what the intent of the garden was originally with what the community and all of the town would like. And as well as having open space, which I agree to a degree, we need open space in some areas. It's a very difficult decision to make, hearing all the yays and all the nays from everyone in the community, to having a group say that they're working on it and it's taken a little bit of time. But as long as we can get the knowing zoning and town staff to work together.
Counselor Parker, I
this.
need a vote, please.
Yay.
I'm going to repeat the vote, just for clarity, please. So in favor, we have Atwater, Granatowski, Heed, Franco, Parker. Opposed, Perry, Schmidt, and Baumgartner. Is that correct? Is the vote correct? Yes? That motion passes 5-3-0. Okay. We are on to review of agenda items. We have no other agenda items. Other business? Any counselors do you have something? Counselor Baumgartner.
Yeah, so last week I referred to ordinances, one regarding wage theft ordinance, the other dealing with apprenticeships and contracting policies relating to construction here in town. Just to clarify, I do support raising a family here and children going to schools here, most importantly, providing a pathway for employment even outside of college. As you very well know, with your work at Grosso Tech, the trades are certainly an opportunity for folks to make a very good living, while also working on projects that grow our town here. And there will be many in the pipeline moving forward. And I really like to see our council continuing to support those kinds of programs moving forward, especially for folks who live in Groton. So I'm going to continue working with our great town manager on refining that ordinance so that we can start deliberating on it in the coming weeks. But looking forward to doing that and watching Groton grow.
May I just ask for clarity, when in the process of working on this and coming back to us, and I was speaking to, I believe, your guest that's here, Mr. LaBelle from the Carpenters Union.
Yes.
I need clarity on what the role of the municipality is in regards to the Connecticut general statutes, because as I understand it, I could be wrong, but I believe that apprenticeships and licensing and everything come from the state and are governed by the general statutes. So I'm going to need some clarity brought back to us as to how we can fit in with what the general statutes say. And the other thing is this something that we could ask our legislators to pursue further in Hartford, or do you foresee it as a better way? The gentleman mentioned Tolland, I believe. He's working. It's entirely up to you,
Absolutely.
Councilor Baumgartner. But just the reasoning why we're going municipality by municipality rather than pursuing something at a statewide level. I understand if it's going to be effective here and if we can make it work. But do you want to introduce your guest?
Most certainly. I'd like to introduce Jason LaBelle from the Carpenters. So, Jason, you want to take it away?
Jason LaBelle, Carpenters Union, Local 326, Connecticut. And I respect your questioning as to why we would go for this municipality-wise versus statewide. So currently, the state does mandate certain stipulations on apprenticeship. And that's okay. What my ask is that we ask for a certain percentage for, we say that a contractor coming in on a project, $3 million or above, you would require an apprenticeship program, a certified apprenticeship program with that contractor working on that project. And that could cover all scope, all trades, licensed, unlicensed, anybody working on that project. And there was also some discussion, I believe, outside of the chambers, as far as any kind of local hiring requirements. Absolutely. Every municipality has the ability to ask for these things. Mm-hmm. We're currently talking, I believe, about 3 schools that are going to be happening in town. These are school-funded projects. I'd like to point at Grosso as the example. So we are building a tech school, although it is a state project, but we have some of our youth going to that school. In that school, we are training the next workforce. The biggest piece of that project is the drywall. Right now, that drywall contractor has no apprenticeship program. So what is the message that we're sending to the youth in that school as they're watching their next new school being built next door without having the ability to go work in that school? Nobody graduates from tech school as a journeyman in their trade. They have an education and a basic. We take them in and we give them the other 4-year degree, which is a 4-year apprenticeship. And I speak towards the carpenters on that. Other trades have different apprenticeship requirements. And it's not a union versus non-union issue. It's simply stipulating and giving your community the ability to work on these projects. A 20% local hire requirement is not an uncommon number to have out there for the municipality. So if we said that we're going to build this school over here and we have a 20% local hire requirement, that guarantees that we have the ability to take some of the best and the brightest out of that tech school in those trades and put them to work on that project. But it's a gateway towards a career. Apprenticeship opportunities equal careers. It's not just a job. I'm not interested in jobs. I'm interested in taking the youth of our communities and giving them that 30-year opportunity to have the ability to retire with dignity, to actually have something saved up for their future. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to shore up the youth of our communities out here. And this is the vehicle that we have to do it, and municipal work, municipalities have that ability. Okay. And it's through ordinances like what we're trying to draft now that we can do that. And there's many moving parts, don't get me wrong. We're simply in the introduction, stages now. I will be drafting and sending some stuff over to the town manager, as well as if the town council wants it to be, I'm glad you're excited, Mr. Heaton. But we can, there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's all also what the council wants to require. And I'm glad that you brought up Holland, but further south of that, East Hampton. East Hampton has a stipulation for local contractors, that if a local contractor is able to bond that project and perform the work and has the history of doing that work, we can go in there and we can say, okay, as long as you come within 10% of the lowest bid or the most qualified bid, you as a local contractor have that preferred hire. We can put preferred hire for local contractors in there. We're not trying to exclude anybody out of this. All I'm simply trying to do is make sure that the youth of the community has the ability at that sustainable career through whatever trade they choose. And the gateway is right here in the community. We can take 18-year-old man or woman fresh out of tech school, put them to work on a project. And if we have, and the reason why the municipal versus the state is the way that I like it, is we're sending that message to the youth that, yeah, you can have the opportunity as long as these projects keep going on in this community, that you can work within your community, you know?
So if you have any of those draft documents from the other municipalities you mentioned, if you could forward that to Mr. Bird, I think that would be helpful when Councilor Baumgartner and he are working together on that.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have questions for Mr. LaBelle?
Just actually to follow up on your previous questioning, I actually sat in on the Labor and Public Employees Committee hearing today, and one bill that committee is looking to move out of committee and then into the General Assembly is creating a new task force that will take a look at the manufacturing workforce pipeline that has sprung up throughout our state, and as we know, with electric boat, there will be a need for growing the supply chain locally and to support the growth at EB and certainly some of the other larger companies throughout the state. So, it's a win for small businesses. It's a win for our youth, our labor force. It's a win for everyone. So, I'd love for this to be a kind of a collaborative process, and I'll be working with John, and I know I've had many discussions with Rachel as well Councilor Franco on this as well, and let's get this done. So thank you for coming out, Jason, and hope to see you again.
If I could, in closing too, it's also an opportunity for us to make sure that we're not just creating opportunity for the youth of our communities, but it's also the opportunity for us to make sure that we cancel out the bad players. There's a lot of things that are happening in construction these days that have become business as usual. A lot of people sweep it under the rug. They look at the bottom line, the number is lower, so we're going to go with that contractor. Right across town, we have a large developer in town that's building some nice projects, and it's not just in Groton, it's in New London as well. And that contractor recently has been cited with 3 stop work orders from the State Department of Labor for the failure to comply with workman's comp compliance. If we put the proper documents in place when these projects go out to bid, we ensure that they have to meet these specifications. That's the other side to the municipalities being involved with this, with these responsible contractor ordinances. So,
all right.
And that's. So, is
Thank
there
you
any
very
questions
much.
from the board at all?
I don't think anyone else has anything at this point. So thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing updates from Councilor Baumgartner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks. Any other business? Seeing none,
Make a motion to adjourn.
moved by Councilor Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
You all must stay. Councilor Franco? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are adjourned at 8:25.